The dust hung heavy in the auction barn as Bella Calloway stood on the makeshift platform, her wrists bound before her, hair the color of wheat at sunset cascading down her back, despite efforts to appear undesirable. She'd been betrayed, sold to cover her late father's gambling debts, though the auctioneer didn't bother mentioning that part to the crowd of rough-looking men eyeing her like wolves sizing up a wounded deer. $200 for the woman. The auctioneer called out, his voice booming through the crowded barn. A fine addition to any household, can cook, clean, and comes from good stock. Bella fought back tears, refusing to give these men the satisfaction of seeing her break. 3 days ago, she had been the daughter of a respectable rancher. Now she was property to be sold to the highest bidder in this God-forsaken corner of Colorado Territory, 1875. A murmur rippled through the crowd as bids began to rise. $250, $300, $350. Each call made Bella's stomach tighten further. She scanned the faces of the bidders, noting merchants looking for household help, widowers seeking wives, and men with intentions far less honorable. In the back, half hidden in shadow, stood a tall figure whose face she couldn't quite make out. $500, called a paunchy man with a cruel twist to his mouth. Bella recognized him as Jeremiah Blackwood, owner of the county's largest saloon and a man rumored to acquire pretty things for his establishment. The auctioneer's eyes lit up. $500 from Mr. Blackwood. Do I hear $550? Silence fell. The auctioneer raised his hand, preparing to bring down his gavel. Going once. She's mine by choice, not by price. The voice cut through the barn like a knife, deep and steady. The crowd parted as a man strode forward, spurs jingling with each deliberate step. He moved with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to danger, a star-shaped badge glinting on his vest. Isaac Oakley, the newly appointed sheriff of Cottonwood Springs, stopped at the foot of the platform. His eyes, the color of a summer storm, met Bella's. "This auction is over," he announced, his hand resting casually near his holster. "Miss Calloway isn't property to be sold," the auctioneer sputtered. "Now see here, Sheriff, these proceedings are legal. I have papers forged by Nathaniel Reed, who I arrested this morning for fraud and theft," Isaac replied coldly. "Those debts were manufactured and this woman is free." Blackwood stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. "I've paid good money to be here." "You can't just, I can and I am," Isaac cut him off. "Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me, personally." The subtle shift in his stance made the threat clear. One by one, the men backed away. Only Blackwood remained, glaring at the sheriff with undisguised hatred before finally turning on his heel and storming out. Isaac climbed the steps to the platform and produced a knife, cutting through Bella's bonds with a quick slash. "Miss Calloway, you're free to go." Bella rubbed her chafed wrists, studying the man before her. "Why would you help me?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Because no person should be treated as property," he answered simply. Then, more quietly, "And because I made a promise to your father before he died." Her head snapped up. "You knew my father?" "I did." Isaac offered his arm. "Come, it's not safe for you here." As they walked out of the auction barn, whispers followed them. Bella held her head high despite her threadbare dress and the uncertainty clouding her future. She had no home to return to. The bank had seized her father's ranch and no family left in the world. "Where will I go?" she asked as they stepped into the harsh sunlight. Isaac hesitated. "My sister Martha runs a boarding house in town. She has a room available. It's modest but clean and safe." "I have no money," Bella admitted, shame coloring her cheeks. "Martha needs help with the cooking and cleaning. You can work for your board until you decide what comes next." Bella looked up at this unexpected savior, trying to reconcile the intimidating lawman with the kindness in his eyes. "Why are you really helping me, Sheriff Oakley?" A shadow crossed his face. "Your father saved my life once. James Calloway was a good man, regardless of his weaknesses." He helped her onto his horse. "And call me Isaac. Sheriff still feels like someone else's title." As they rode toward town, Bella stealing glances at the stoic profile of her rescuer. Neither could have guessed how their lives would become irrevocably entwined in the days ahead, or that the auction barn confrontation was merely the opening salvo in a battle that would test them both to their limits. Martha Oakley proved to be a stark contrast to her brother, where Isaac was reserved and measured. Martha bubbled with warmth and conversation. She welcomed Bella with open arms, tusking over her thin frame and immediately setting about finding her suitable clothes. "My dear, you look half-starved," Martha exclaimed, ushering Bella into the cozy kitchen of the boarding house. "Sit, sit. I've got stew that'll put some meat on those bones." Bella sat at the worn wooden table, overwhelmed by the kindness after days of fear and uncertainty. "Thank you, Mrs. Oakley. It's Miss Oakley, dear." "Never married," Martha replied cheerfully as she ladled thick stew into a bowl. "And don't thank me. Anyone with a heart would help a girl in your situation." Isaac leaned against the doorframe, hat in hand. "Martha, Miss Calloway will be staying with us for a while." "I told her she could work for her board." Martha waved a dismissive hand. "Plenty of time to sort that out later. For now, she needs rest and food." She placed the steaming bowl before Bella. "Eat, child." Bella didn't need to be told twice. She ate ravenously, only realizing halfway through how unladylike she must appear. She slowed, embarrassed. "Don't you stop on my account," Martha said, noticing. "A healthy appetite is nothing to be ashamed of." Isaac cleared his throat. "I need to get back to the office. Reed's arraignment is tomorrow, and I have paperwork to prepare." He nodded at Bella. "You'll be safe here, Miss Calloway." "Thank you again, Sheriff Isaac," Bella said, meeting his eyes. "I don't know how I'll ever repay you." Something flickered in his expression, discomfort, perhaps, or something deeper. "No repayment necessary." He settled his hat on his head. "I'll check in tomorrow." After he left, Martha sat across from Bella with a knowing smile. "My brother doesn't usually involve himself in other people's troubles. He must have thought highly of your father." Bella set down her spoon. "He mentioned knowing my father, but I don't recall him ever visiting our ranch." "Isaac keeps his own counsel," Martha said, refilling Bella's bowl. "But he's a good man with a strong sense of justice. If he's looking out for you, there's a reason." That night, in a small but clean room on the boarding house's second floor, Bella lay awake despite her exhaustion. Through the thin walls, she could hear the other boarders, a schoolteacher, a clerk from the general store, and an elderly widow going about their evening routines. The events of the day replayed in her mind. Standing on that auction block, certain her life was over, the sheriff's unexpected intervention, and now this strange new beginning. She thought of her father, his kind eyes, his weakness for cards, and the crushing debts she discovered after his death. What connection did he have to the stern-faced sheriff? And why did Isaac Oakley feel responsible for her welfare? She fell asleep with these questions swirling in her mind, unaware that across town, Isaac sat at his desk, staring at an old folded letter bearing the signature of James Calloway, a letter containing secrets that would change everything Bella thought she knew about her past. Dawn broke over Cottonwood Springs, painting the small frontier town in hues of gold and amber. Bella woke to the unfamiliar sounds of a boarding house stirring to life, floorboards creaking, muted conversations, the clatter of breakfast preparations downstairs. For a disorienting moment, she expected to see the familiar walls of her childhood bedroom at the ranch. Reality crashed back swiftly. The ranch was gone, her father was gone, and she had narrowly escaped being sold like livestock. She dressed quickly in clothes Martha had provided, a simple blue dress, slightly worn but clean and well-mended. When she ventured downstairs, the kitchen was already bustling with activity. Martha stood at the large cast iron stove, expertly flipping flapjacks while managing a skillet of bacon. "There you are," Martha beamed. "Sleep well, you're just in time to help with breakfast. The boarders get mighty hungry." Bella rolled up her sleeves. "Just tell me what to do." For the next hour, she worked alongside Martha, serving breakfast to the assortment of boarders. They regarded her with curious but not unkind glances, and Martha introduced her simply as Miss Calloway, who will be staying with us for a spell. As the boarders filed out to their respective jobs, Martha sat down with a cup of coffee. "You're a natural in the kitchen. Your mother must have taught you well." Bella's hands stilled as she gathered plates. "My mother died when I was 8, influenza." She stacked the dishes carefully. "After that, it was just father and me. I learned to run the household young." Martha's face softened with sympathy. "I'm sorry, dear. Loss is never easy, especially for a child." She took a sip of coffee. "Well, your help will be most welcome here. The boarding house keeps me busy from sunup to sundown." Bella nodded, grateful for the opportunity to earn her keep. "I'll work hard, I promise." As they cleaned up from breakfast, Martha chattered about the town and its inhabitants, giving Bella a crash course in local dynamics. Cottonwood Springs had grown rapidly in the past 5 years, fueled by a silver strike in the nearby mountains and its strategic location along the stagecoach route. "The town's changing," Martha explained as she kneaded dough for the day's bread. "Some for the better, some not. When the silver was discovered, it brought in all sorts honest workers, but also gamblers, swindlers, and worse." "Is that why your brother became sheriff?" Bella asked, washing dishes in a basin of soapy water. Martha laughed. "Lord, no, Isaac never wanted the badge. He was a ranger over in Texas for years. Came here about 8 months ago, said he was done with lawman work." Her expression grew thoughtful. "But when our previous sheriff was killed in that robbery, the town council practically begged him to step in. He's only been wearing the star for 4 months. Before Bella could inquire further, the back door swung open and Isaac entered the kitchen. He looked as though he hadn't slept, his face bearing the shadow of a day's growth of beard. "Morning," he said, nodding to both women. His eyes lingered on Bella for a moment, assessing. "You're settling in all right." "Yes, thank you," Bella replied, suddenly conscious of her disheveled appearance after the morning's work. Martha pushed a mug of coffee into her brother's hands. "You look terrible. Did you sleep at all?" Had matters to attend to. He took a grateful sip of the coffee. Reed's being transported to Denver for trial. Federal marshals arrived on the morning stage. "Good riddance," Martha muttered. "That man's been nothing but trouble since he set foot in town." Isaac turned to Bella. "Reed confessed to forging documents about your father's debts. The bank's reviewing all transactions related to your family's ranch." Hope flared briefly in Bella's chest. "Does that mean I might get the ranch back?" Isaac's expression tightened. "I'm afraid not. Your father did have legitimate debts, Miss Calloway. The bank foreclosure was legal. Reed just exaggerated the amount to justify selling you to cover the difference." The hope died as quickly as it had risen. Bella nodded, fighting back disappointment. She hadn't truly expected to reclaim her home, but hearing it confirmed still stung. "There's something else," Isaac continued, setting down his coffee. "Blackwood didn't take kindly to yesterday's interruption. He's making noise about challenging the validity of your freedom," Martha gasped. "He can't do that." "Legally, he can't," Isaac agreed. "But Blackwood has influence in this town and not all of it above board." He fixed Bella with a serious look. "For now, I'd advise staying close to the boarding house. Don't wander town alone." Bella straightened her spine, a flash of defiance rising through her grief. "I won't hide like a criminal. I've done nothing wrong." "No, you haven't," Isaac agreed, something like admiration flickering in his eyes. "But Blackwood is dangerous when crossed. Just be cautious, please." The way he said please, as if her safety genuinely mattered to him, made Bella's resistance soften. "All right, I'll be careful." Isaac nodded, seemingly satisfied. He reached into his vest pocket and withdrew a small leather pouch, which he placed on the table. "This was found among Reed's possessions. It belongs to you." Bella untied the pouch and gasped softly as she emptied the contents into her palm. Her mother's gold locket, the one that had disappeared from her room during the bank's inventory of the ranch. "I thought it was lost," she whispered, fingers tracing the delicate engraving. "Reed took several personal items he claimed were partial payment," Isaac explained, his voice hardening. "We've recovered what we could." Bella fastened the locket around her neck, the familiar weight against her collarbone bringing unexpected comfort. "Thank you," she said, meeting Isaac's gaze directly, "for everything." Something passed between them in that moment, an unspoken connection that made Martha raise an eyebrow as she observed the exchange. Isaac broke the contact first, reaching for his hat. "I should get back. Town doesn't police itself." He hesitated at the door. "Miss Calloway, Bella. Your father was a complicated man, but he loved you very much. Never doubt that." Before she could respond, he was gone, leaving Bella staring after him with confusion and curiosity swirling in her mind. Martha's voice broke through her thoughts. "Well now," she said with a knowing smile. "That's interesting." "What is?" Bella asked, turning back to the dishes. "I haven't seen my brother look at anyone that way in a very long time." Martha returned to her bread dough, humming thoughtfully. "Very interesting indeed." The next few days established a rhythm for Bella. She rose early to help Martha prepare breakfast for the boarders, spent the morning cleaning rooms and doing laundry, and assisted with dinner preparations in the afternoon. The work was hard but honest, and she found comfort in the routine. Word of her near sale and rescue had spread through town, making her the subject of curious glances whenever she ventured out with Martha to purchase supplies. Some looks were sympathetic, others judgmental, as if her predicament somehow reflected poorly on her character. "Pay them no mind," Martha advised as they walked back from the general store, packages in hand. "People love to gossip when they have nothing better to do." "I just wish they wouldn't stare," Bella murmured, acutely aware of the whispers following them down the main street. "They'll find something new to cluck about soon enough," Martha assured her. "Small towns have short memories when it comes to," she broke off as a man stepped directly into their path. Jeremiah Blackwood stood before them, expensively dressed and flanked by two rough-looking men. His thin smile didn't reach his eyes. "Miss Calloway," he said, tipping his hat with mock courtesy. "A pleasure to see you enjoying your temporary freedom." Martha shifted protectively closer to Bella. "Mr. Blackwood, we're in a hurry, please excuse us." Blackwood ignored her, his gaze fixed on Bella. "I want you to know that I always get what I want eventually. I paid good money to attend that auction and I don't appreciate being robbed of my investment." Bella stiffened. "I am not and never was merchandise, Mr. Blackwood." "Spirited," he remarked with a cold chuckle. "I like that, makes the breaking more satisfying." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Your father owed me money too, girl, money I intend to collect one way or another." "Step back, Blackwood." The command came from behind them. Isaac approached, hand resting on his holstered revolver, expression hard as granite. Blackwood straightened, his smile widening into something predatory. "Sheriff Oakley, just having a friendly conversation with these lovely ladies." "Didn't sound friendly to me," Isaac replied evenly. "Move along." For a tense moment it seemed Blackwood might refuse, then he shrugged elaborately. "Of course, Sheriff, I know when I'm not wanted." He tipped his hat again. "Ladies, always a pleasure." He looked directly at Bella. "We'll continue our conversation another time." As Blackwood and his men sauntered away, Bella released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Martha clutched her arm tightly. "Are you all right?" Isaac asked, his concerned gaze moving between the two women. "We're fine," Martha assured him, though her voice trembled slightly. "Just shaken." Isaac frowned after Blackwood's retreating figure. "What did he say to you?" Bella hesitated, reluctant to repeat the thinly veiled threats. "He mentioned my father owing him money." A shadow crossed Isaac's face. "Did he now?" It wasn't a question. "I'll walk you both back to the boarding house." As they walked, Bella studied Isaac's profile. "Did my father really owe money to Blackwood?" Isaac's jaw tightened. "Your father had gambling debts to several people in town. Blackwood ran some private games at his saloon." He glanced at her. "But whatever debt existed died with James. Blackwood has no legal claim on you." "Legal or not, he clearly thinks otherwise," Martha pointed out. They reached the boarding house and Isaac escorted them inside. In the safety of the kitchen, he finally spoke the concern that had been evident in his expression. "I think it's best if you don't go out alone, either of you, until I've had a chance to make things clear to Blackwood." Martha nodded in agreement, but Bella bristled. "I can't live as a prisoner because that man has delusions." "It's not about being a prisoner," Isaac countered. "It's about being smart. Blackwood is dangerous, Bella. He's got half the county officials in his pocket and the other half too scared to cross him." "Then how did you become sheriff?" Bella challenged. "Surely he would have opposed you." Something like amusement flickered in Isaac's eyes. "He did, vigorously, but the town council decided they preferred someone who couldn't be bought or intimidated." He grew serious again. "Which is precisely why he's looking for ways to undermine me now." Bella understood the implication, "and I'm an easy target." "Yes," Isaac admitted bluntly, "but I don't intend to let him succeed." The conviction in his voice stirred something in Bella, a warmth that spread through her chest and settled like embers in her stomach. This man, who barely knew her, was willing to stand between her and danger without hesitation. "Thank you," she said softly, "but I won't cower forever. My father raised me to face challenges head-on." Isaac studied her for a long moment, respect evident in his gaze. "I believe you would, but for now let's not give Blackwood any easy opportunities." He turned to leave, then paused. I'm heading out to what's left of your father's ranch tomorrow. The marshal found some additional documents that need verification. Would you like to come along? The invitation surprised her. Yes, she answered quickly, perhaps too eagerly. I'd like to see it once more. I'll come by at first light, he said with a nod, settling his hat on his head. Get some rest, both of you. After he left, Martha busied herself preparing vegetables for dinner, a knowing smile playing at her lips. What? Bella asked, helping her snap beans. Nothing at all, Martha replied innocently. Just noticing how my usually taciturn brother seems to find quite a few words when speaking to you. Bella felt heat rise to her cheeks. He's just being kind because of my father. Martha hummed skeptically. My brother has many qualities. Being forthcoming with strangers isn't typically one of them. She patted Bella's hand. But don't mind me, I'm just a nosy old spinster. Bella changed the subject, but Martha's observations lingered in her mind throughout the evening. The thought of spending time alone with Isaac tomorrow sent a flutter of nervous anticipation through her, a feeling she quickly tried to dismiss. Her situation was precarious enough without developing inappropriate feelings for the man who had saved her. Still, as she lay in bed that night, her thoughts drifted to the sheriff's steady gaze and the way his usually stern expression softened when he looked at her. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of gunfire, her father's laughter, and a pair of storm-gray eyes that seemed to see straight through to her soul. The morning dawned clear and cool, the first hint of autumn crispness in the air. Bella dressed carefully in her sturdiest skirt and a borrowed riding jacket from Martha. She braided her hair tightly, remembering how the wind would whip across the open ranch land. Isaac arrived as promised, just as the first rays of sunlight crept over the eastern hills. He waited on horseback, leading a second mount, a gentle-looking chestnut mare. You remember how to ride, I assume? He asked as he helped her mount. Bella settled into the saddle with practiced ease. I was riding before I could walk properly. Father made sure of that. A ghost of a smile touched Isaac's lips. I don't doubt it. They rode in comfortable silence through town, Bella acutely aware of the curious glances from early rising shopkeepers and workers. Outside of town, the trail stretched before them, winding through scrubby hills toward the valley where her father's ranch lay. As they rode, Bella gathered her courage to ask the question that had been gnawing at her. How did you know my father? He never mentioned you. Isaac was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. Finally, he spoke, eyes fixed on the trail ahead. We met in Texas about 15 years ago. I was a young ranger, green as spring grass. Your father was driving cattle to market. He glanced at her. He saved my life during an Apache raid, pulled me onto his horse when mine was shot out from under me, got us both to safety. Bella absorbed this, trying to reconcile it with her memories. That sounds like him. He was always helping people. We kept in touch over the years, letters mostly. Isaac's voice grew hesitant. About 6 months ago, he wrote asking if I'd consider coming to Colorado, said he had something important to discuss, something that couldn't be put in a letter. Bella frowned. 6 months ago, but that's when he started gambling heavily, Isaac finished. Yes, by the time I arrived in Cottonwood Springs, James was already in deep with Blackwood and others. He seemed desperate, afraid. Of what? He wouldn't say directly, kept talking about making things right, about protection. Isaac's expression darkened. 3 days after I arrived, he was found dead. The doctor called it heart failure. Bella's hands tightened on the reins. You think it wasn't? Isaac hesitated. I think your father was afraid of something or someone, and that fear might have contributed to his death. But I have no proof of foul play. They crested a hill, and suddenly the Calloway ranch spread out before them, or what remained of it. The main house still stood, weathered but dignified, but the barn roof had partially collapsed, and the corrals were empty of the cattle and horses that once filled them. Bella's throat tightened at the sight. This had been her home, the only one she'd ever known. Now it stood abandoned, a hollow shell of what it once was. They dismounted in the yard, tying their horses to the hitching post that still stood before the house. Isaac watched Bella carefully as she approached the porch, her steps slow and deliberate. We can leave if this is too difficult, he offered quietly. She shook her head. No, I need to see it, to say goodbye properly. The house was unlocked, the bank apparently unconcerned about potential theft from a property so far from town. Inside, dust motes danced in the sunlight streaming through grimy windows. Most of the furniture remained, though anything of value had been removed for auction. Bella moved through the rooms like a ghost, touching familiar surfaces: the mantel where her mother's portrait once hung, the table where she and her father had shared countless meals, the bookshelf now empty of the volumes she'd treasured. In her father's study, she paused. "What documents did you need to verify?" Isaac withdrew a folded paper from his vest. "This deed, found among Reed's possessions, it appears to be for the northern section of your father's property, about 50 acres. According to this, your father sold it to a man named Thomas Wilson 6 months ago." Bella frowned. "I never heard of any sale, and I've never heard of Thomas Wilson." "That's what I thought." Isaac unfolded the document on the desk. "The signature looks like your father's, but the circumstances are suspicious. The witness signatures are from Reed and a man who worked for him, both known forgers." Bella studied the paper. "This is worthless land, rocky, no good for grazing or crops. Father always said it was only good for the view it provided." Isaac's expression sharpened. "Did he now? Interesting." He carefully refolded the document. "I need to check something. Would you mind waiting here?" Bella nodded, and Isaac left the house. Through the window, she watched him mount his horse and ride toward the northern boundary of the property. With a sigh, she continued her melancholy tour of the house. In her bedroom, little remained beyond the stripped bed frame and empty wardrobe. She knelt and pried up a loose floorboard where she had once hidden treasures as a child. The space was empty, of course. She had removed her small cache of keepsakes when the bank's men came. As she replaced the board, a floorboard creaked behind her. "That was quick," she said, assuming Isaac had returned. When no response came, she turned and froze. Jeremiah Blackwood stood in her bedroom doorway, a pistol held casually at his side. "Miss Calloway," he greeted with a cold smile. "How fortunate. I was hoping to continue our conversation from yesterday." Bella rose slowly, heart hammering. "How did you know we'd be here?" "Small towns, my dear. Everyone knows everyone's business." He gestured with the gun. "Now, shall we discuss your father's debts like civilized people?" Bella glanced toward the window, calculating her chances of escape. "I wouldn't," Blackwood advised, following her gaze. "My men are outside. They'll catch you before you reach the tree line. The sheriff will be back any minute," Bella warned, trying to keep her voice steady. Blackwood's smile widened. "That gives us just enough time to reach an understanding." He stepped closer. "Your father owed me $5,000. A considerable sum." "My father had nothing when he died," Bella countered. "The bank took everything." "Not everything," Blackwood replied, his eyes traveling over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "He had a daughter. A beautiful, capable daughter who would fetch a high price in certain establishments across the border." Horror washed over Bella as his meaning became clear. "You're insane if you think I'd ever—" "You misunderstand, Miss Calloway. I'm not offering you a choice." The false charm dropped from his voice. "Your father stole from me, not just money, but something far more valuable. I intend to collect what I'm owed one way or another." "What are you talking about? My father was many things, but he wasn't a thief." Blackwood's expression hardened. "No." "Then perhaps you can explain why he was seen at my safe in the middle of the night, just before $5,000 and certain sensitive documents went missing." Bella shook her head in disbelief. "You're lying. Your loyalty is touching if misplaced." He gestured toward the door with his gun. "Now we're going to walk outside very calmly to where my men are waiting. If you scream or try to run, things will become considerably more unpleasant." Bella's mind raced, desperately searching for options. Where was Isaac? How long before he returned could she stall? "If what you say is true," she said, forcing her voice to remain steady, "then the money and documents must be somewhere on the property. Let me help you find them." Uncertainty flickered in Blackwood's eyes. "You expect me to believe you'd help me?" "I expect you to believe I'd rather search for stolen property than be sold into slavery," Bella replied bluntly. "If my father took something from you, I want to know. He raised me to believe in honesty." Blackwood studied her, clearly weighing her offer against his original plan. "Very well," he decided after a moment. "We'll search. But my men come with us, and if this is a trick—" "It's no trick," Bella assured him, though her mind was already working on how to alert Isaac when he returned. Blackwood escorted her from the bedroom at gunpoint. As they reached the main room, the front door swung open and Isaac stepped in, his attention on some papers in his hand. "Bella, I think I found," he looked up, freezing at the tableau before him. In the split second of surprise, Blackwood swung his gun toward Isaac. Bella reacted instinctively, lunging forward to knock Blackwood's arm upward. The gun discharged, the bullet splintering the ceiling. Isaac drew with lightning speed, his revolver clearing leather before Blackwood could recover. "Drop it," he commanded, his voice deadly calm. Outside, horses whinnied and hooves thundered as Blackwood's men reacted to the gunshot. Isaac backed toward the window, keeping his gun trained on Blackwood. "Your men might want to reconsider," he called out the window. "Unless they want to explain to the Undertaker why their boss has a new hole in his head." A tense silence followed. Then a voice called back, "We're riding out, Blackwood." This wasn't the deal. Fury contorted Blackwood's features as the sound of retreating hoofbeats confirmed his abandonment. Slowly, he lowered his weapon to the floor. "Kick it away," Isaac ordered. When Blackwood complied, Isaac moved forward, producing handcuffs from his belt. "Jeremiah Blackwood, you're under arrest for attempted kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, and threatening an officer of the law." As Isaac secured the handcuffs, Blackwood laughed bitterly. "You're making a mistake, Sheriff. I'm not the villain in this story. Ask Miss Calloway about her father's midnight activities. Ask her what James was really doing in the weeks before his death." Isaac yanked Blackwood toward the door. "Save your stories for the judge." Bella followed them outside, shaken but relieved. As Isaac secured Blackwood to his saddle, she approached cautiously. "Are you all right?" Isaac asked, his eyes searching her face with concern. She nodded. "He said my father stole from him money and documents." Isaac's expression hardened. "Blackwood will say anything to create doubt. Don't let him get inside your head." But something in his tone made Bella suspect there was more to the story than he was sharing. "What did you find out there? You said you discovered something." Isaac hesitated, glancing at Blackwood, who watched them with calculating eyes. "We'll discuss it on the ride back," he said quietly. "For now, let's get this snake back to town and into a cell." The ride back to Cottonwood Springs was tense and largely silent. Blackwood rode ahead, hands cuffed before him, while Isaac and Bella followed at a short distance. Despite Isaac's promise to explain, he remained tight-lipped until they reached the sheriff's office. Once Blackwood was securely locked in a cell, still smirking with infuriating confidence, Isaac led Bella to his desk and closed the door to the cells behind them. "I found something at the northern boundary of your father's property," he said, spreading out a map on his desk. "That worthless rocky land, it's not worthless at all," Bella leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "There's an entrance to a mine shaft carefully concealed among the rocks. Recent work, too. The timber supports can't be more than 6 months old." He tapped the map where he'd marked the location. "I explored about 20 feet in before turning back. It's a silver mine, Bella, a rich one from the look of the veins I saw exposed." Bella stared at him in shock. "That's impossible. Father would have told me." "Would he, if he knew Blackwood and others were watching him?" "If he was trying to protect you." Isaac's expression was grave. "I think your father discovered the silver and kept it secret while he quietly worked the mine, but someone found out or suspected, and that's when the pressure on him began." Bella sank into a chair, mind reeling. "If that's true. If there's silver, why sell the ranch to the bank? Why gamble away what little money we had?" "I don't think the gambling was real, at least not entirely," Isaac said quietly. "I think it was a cover, a way to explain why he needed to sell quickly without raising suspicion about the silver. The debts gave him a reason to liquidate everything." "But why?" Bella demanded, frustration rising. "Why the secrecy? Why not just announce the discovery and stake a proper claim?" Isaac hesitated, then withdrew an envelope from his desk drawer. "I think this might explain it. Your father sent me this letter about 7 months ago. It's what prompted me to come to Colorado." Bella took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper covered in her father's familiar handwriting. "Isaac, I pray this finds you well. I write now not as an old friend seeking to reminisce, but as a desperate man in need of someone he can trust. I've discovered something on my property that has put Bella and me in grave danger. There are powerful men in this county who will stop at nothing to take what isn't theirs, and I fear they already suspect what I've found. I'm taking steps to secure Bella's future, but I need someone with your skills and integrity to ensure my plans succeed. Come to Cottonwood Springs as soon as you can. Tell no one why you're coming. When you arrive, ask for James Calloway at the Silver Dollar Saloon any evening. Do not come directly to the ranch, it may be watched. Bring this letter with you as proof of identity. The matter is urgent and cannot wait. Your friend, James Beller, read the letter twice, tears welling in her eyes. He knew he was in danger, she whispered, and he was trying to protect me. Isaac nodded solemnly. When I arrived in town, your father was already deeply entangled with Blackwood and his associates. He told me he'd discovered silver but feared that declaring it officially would lead to claim jumping or worse. So he was selling the ranch as a cover while he, extracted enough silver to start over somewhere else. That's my guess, Isaac confirmed. The fake deed, I found the one transferring the northern section to Thomas Wilson. I think your father created that identity for himself. A way to retain ownership of the silver-rich portion while appearing to sell everything. Bella stood abruptly, pacing the small office. But something went wrong. Father died before he could complete his plan. She turned to Isaac. You said the doctor called it heart failure, but now, Isaac's expression darkened. Now I'm not so sure. Blackwood had motive and your father was afraid of something specific. I can't prove anything, but the timing is suspicious. From the cells came Blackwood's mocking voice. Such touching concern, Sheriff. Pity it comes too late for old James. Isaac ignored him, focusing on Bella. We need to keep this quiet for now. If word gets out about the silver before we've secured your legal claim to that land, there could be trouble. My claim, Bella echoed, but the bank owns the property now. Not if we can prove the sale was conducted under duress or fraudulent circumstances, Isaac replied. And not if we can authenticate that deed transferring the northern section to Thomas Wilson before the bank took possession. Hope flickered in Bella's heart for the first time in weeks. You think we could get it back? I think we can try, Isaac said, his voice softening. Your father wanted to secure your future, Bella. I aim to help him do that, even if he's not here to see it through. The tenderness in his tone made something warm unfurl in Bella's chest. Before she could respond, the office door burst open and Martha rushed in, face flushed with alarm. Isaac. Thank heavens you're back. I've been worried sick when I heard. She stopped short at the sight of Bella. Oh, you're safe. When word reached town that Blackwood and his men were seen riding toward the Calloway ranch, I feared the worst. We had a situation, Isaac acknowledged grimly, but it's under control now. Blackwood is my guest for the foreseeable future. Martha's relief was palpable. She crossed to Bella and embraced her tightly. Are you hurt, dear? I'm fine, Bella assured her, returning the hug, just a bit shaken. She handled herself admirably, Isaac added, a note of respect in his voice that made Bella's cheeks warm. Martha looked between them, a knowing expression crossing her face despite the seriousness of the situation. Well then, she said briskly, I think this calls for a proper meal and perhaps something stronger than tea. Both of you come to the boarding house for dinner. No arguments. Isaac looked as if he might protest, but Martha fixed him with a stern look that brooked no refusal. 6 o'clock sharp. You can leave your deputy to watch the prisoner. After Martha left, a comfortable silence settled between Bella and Isaac. Finally, Bella spoke, her voice soft but determined. Thank you for believing in my father, for helping me understand what he was trying to do. Isaac met her gaze steadily. James was a good man caught in a bad situation. He deserved better than the hand he was dealt. He hesitated, then added more quietly, so do you, Bella. The way he said her name with a gentleness at odds with his usual reserve sent a flutter through her stomach. She was suddenly acutely aware of how close they stood, of the concern in his eyes that seemed to run deeper than professional duty. The moment stretched between them, taut with unspoken possibilities, until Isaac cleared his throat and stepped back. I should finish processing Blackwood's arrest, he said, his tone shifting back to professional. Will you be all right getting back to the boarding house? Bella nodded, gathering her composure. Yes, I'll see you at dinner, 6 o'clock, he confirmed with a small smile. I wouldn't dare risk Martha's wrath by being late. As Bella walked back to the boarding house, her mind whirled with the day's revelations. Her father had discovered silver. He had been trying to protect her. And somehow, in the midst of this tangle of secrets and danger, She had found an unlikely ally in the taciturn sheriff with storm-gray eyes, who seemed determined to help her reclaim what was rightfully hers. For the first time since her father's death, Bella felt something like hope for her future, and perhaps, though she hardly dared acknowledge it, the first stirrings of something more than gratitude toward the man who had declared her mine by choice, not by price on that auction platform just days ago. Word of Blackwood's arrest spread through Cottonwood Springs like wildfire. By mid-afternoon, the boarding house had received 3 different visitors bearing news of the confrontation at the Calloway ranch, each version more dramatic than the last. Mrs. Peterson swears she heard Blackwood had 20 men with him, Martha reported as she and Bella prepared dinner. By tomorrow, I expect the story will have you single-handedly defeating an entire army. Bella smiled despite herself. People certainly love their excitement. It's not every day the most powerful man in the county gets arrested, Martha pointed out, checking her roast. Especially by my brother, who most folks still consider an outsider. Will the arrest hold? Bella asked, the question that had been nagging at her since they left the sheriff's office. Blackwood seemed awfully confident for a man in shackles. Martha's expression sobered. That depends on Judge Wilson. He rides circuit through here next week. He's generally fair, but Blackwood has influence far beyond Cottonwood Springs. Before Bella could respond, a knock at the back door interrupted them. Martha opened it to reveal a young deputy, hat in hand. Miss Oakley, Sheriff asked me to deliver this to Miss Calloway. He extended a small package wrapped in brown paper, said it was important. Bella accepted the package with a murmured thanks. After the deputy left, she unwrapped it carefully to find a small leather journal, her father's journal, which she'd thought lost when the bank took inventory of their possessions. A note in Isaac's handwriting was tucked inside the front cover. Found this in Reed's office. Thought you should have it before anyone else sees its contents. I.O. With trembling fingers, Bella opened the journal. The first entries were mundane ranch matters, cattle counts, weather observations, notes on hay supplies. But about halfway through, the entries changed dramatically. March 10, 1875 found something today while clearing rocks from the north pasture. A vein of ore that looks promising. Taking samples to Denver next week under guise of supply run. March 18, 1875 Denver assayer confirms. Silver, high grade, must proceed carefully. Too many hungry eyes in this county since the strike at Eagle Mountain. The entries continued, documenting her father's clandestine mining efforts, his growing paranoia about being watched, and finally, his plan to secure the valuable land through an elaborate ruse involving the fictional Thomas Wilson. April 30, 1875 created deed transferring north section to T. Wilson, myself. Reed suspects nothing, thinks it's just part of debt restructuring. Once bank takes main property, we'll have 6 months to exercise repurchase option as Wilson. By then, should have enough extracted to buy back everything. May 15, 1875 B. Growing suspicious of late nights. Hate keeping secrets from her, but safer this way. Once everything's secure, we'll tell all. Bella's eyes filled with tears at this entry. He had been trying to protect her by keeping her in the dark. The final entry, dated just 2 days before his death, sent a chill down her spine. June 2, 1875 B. Watching me closely. Think I threw him off with losses at poker last night. Oakley arrives tomorrow, not a moment too soon. Someone tampered with mine supports yesterday. Accident or warning. B. Bella whispered. Blackwood father suspected him all along. Martha looked up from her cooking. What's that, dear? Bella hesitated, then made a decision. Martha had shown her nothing but kindness. She deserved the truth. Quickly, she explained about the silver mine, her father's secret plans, and Blackwood's likely involvement in his death. Martha listened with growing concern. My stars, she breathed when Bella finished. No wonder Isaac has been so protective of you. This is far bigger than a few gambling debts. The question is what to do now, Bella said, closing the journal. This proves father legally transferred the northern section before the bank foreclosed on the main property. But Blackwood clearly knows about the silver, and he won't stop coming after it or me just because he's in jail. Isaac will know how to proceed, Martha assured her. He's got a good head for strategy, and he's more familiar with the law than most actual lawyers I've met. As if summoned by his name, Isaac appeared at the kitchen door precisely at 6 o'clock, freshly shaved and wearing a clean shirt rather than his usual work clothes. The transformation was subtle but noticeable, and Martha raised an eyebrow at his appearance. My, she murmured, too low for Isaac to hear. Someone made an effort. Bella felt her cheeks warm but said nothing as she welcomed Isaac into the kitchen. His eyes immediately went to the journal on the table. You found it, he said. Have you read it? Bella nodded. It confirms everything you suspected. Father discovered the silver, created the Thomas Wilson identity, and was planning to buy back the ranch once he had enough ore extracted. She hesitated. The last entry, he mentioned someone tampering with the mine supports. Do you think? I think your father's death warrants another look, Isaac said grimly. I've sent a telegram to the territorial marshal requesting assistance. With Blackwood in custody, we may be able to get some straight answers from people who were previously too afraid to talk. Martha bustled about, setting dishes on the table. Enough grim talk for now, dinner's ready, and you both look like you could use a decent meal after the day you've had. The meal was a welcome respite from the tension of the day. Martha's roast beef, potatoes, and apple pie temporarily pushed aside thoughts of silver mines and threats. Isaac, usually reserved, seemed to relax in the warm kitchen, even sharing a few stories from his ranger days that had both women alternating between laughter and wide-eyed shock. You never told me about the time you tracked those cattle rustlers through a snowstorm, Martha accused, refilling his coffee cup. Isaac shrugged. Never seemed relevant. He's being modest, Bella observed. I suspect Sheriff Oakley has many stories he considers not relevant. A hint of color touched Isaac's cheeks. Most of them aren't fit for polite company. Well, we're hardly polite company, Martha declared. I've been running a boarding house for 15 years. I've heard it all. Perhaps another time, Isaac said, standing. I should get back to the office. My deputy's young and Blackwood has a silver tongue. Of course, Martha agreed, though she looked disappointed. Take some pie for your deputy. Growing boys need feeding. As Martha wrapped a generous slice of pie, Isaac turned to Bella. I'd like to look at that journal more closely when you're comfortable sharing it. There might be details that help establish your claim to the northern section. Keep it, Bella offered, pushing the journal toward him. I've read what I needed to. Their hands brushed as he accepted the journal, the brief contact sending an unexpected warmth up Bella's arm. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither moved. Martha cleared her throat loudly. Pie's ready, she announced, her knowing smile barely suppressed as she handed Isaac a wrapped package. After Isaac left, Martha began clearing the dishes, humming contentedly to herself. Bella joined her at the sink, her mind still partly on the lingering warmth of Isaac's fingers against hers. He's quite handsome when he bothers to clean up, isn't he? Martha remarked casually. Bella nearly dropped the plate she was drying. I hadn't noticed. Of course not, Martha agreed, her tone innocent but her eyes twinkling. And he certainly wasn't looking at you like you hung the moon and stars, must have been imagining things in my old age. Martha. Bella protested, feeling her face flame. Martha laughed, patting Bella's hand. Don't mind me, dear. It's just nice to see my brother interested in something besides work for a change. Her expression softened. And you deserve some happiness after everything you've been through. Bella busied herself with the dishes, not trusting herself to respond. The idea that Isaac might see her as more than an obligation, a promise to her father, was both thrilling and terrifying. Her life had been upended so completely in such a short time. She hardly knew where she stood anymore, let alone whether she could consider something as normal as romance. Yet the memory of Isaac's steady presence, his unwavering support, and the way his eyes softened when they rested on her made something flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with gratitude or obligation. The next morning brought a flurry of activity to the boarding house. News had spread that Judge Wilson would arrive on the afternoon stage 3 days earlier than expected to hear the charges against Blackwood. The accelerated schedule had everyone scrambling, none more so than Isaac, who appeared at breakfast looking as though he'd barely slept. The circuit court clerk says the judge moved up his schedule due to urgent matters in Denver, Isaac explained as he gulped down coffee. But I suspect Blackwood's associates pulled strings to expedite the hearing, hoping we wouldn't be prepared. Are we? Bella asked, concerned by the shadows under his eyes. Prepared, I mean, getting there, Isaac replied. I've taken statements from witnesses who saw Blackwood following us to your ranch yesterday, and I've documented the confrontation in detail. He hesitated. But without corroborating evidence about your father's death, the charges might be reduced to simple assault. Martha frowned. That seems grossly inadequate. It is, Isaac agreed, but the law requires evidence, not just suspicion. He turned to Bella. I hate to ask this of you, but would you be willing to testify about yesterday's events? Your statement would carry significant weight. Bella straightened her spine. Of course, I'll tell the judge exactly what happened. Relief crossed Isaac's features. Thank you. The hearing is set for 4 o'clock at the town hall. He rose, setting his empty cup on the table. I should get back, there's much to prepare. As he headed for the door, Bella called after him. Isaac. He turned and she continued softly, be careful. Blackwood has friends and they won't appreciate what you're doing. A small smile touched his lips. I'm always careful, Miss Calloway. After he left, Bella helped Martha with the breakfast cleanup, her mind preoccupied with the upcoming hearing. The thought of facing Blackwood again made her stomach knot with anxiety, but she was determined to do her part to see justice done. You'll be magnificent, Martha assured her, noticing her nervousness. Just tell the truth, that's all anyone can ask. The morning passed in a blur of chores and preparation. Martha insisted on pressing Bella's best dress, the blue one she'd worn her first day at the boarding house, and arranging her hair in a style that was both dignified and flattering. First impressions matter with Judge Wilson, Martha explained as she pinned up a wayward strand of Bella's hair. He's fair-minded but traditional, believes in propriety and respects those who present themselves well. By 3:30, Bella was ready, outwardly composed though her heart raced beneath her carefully buttoned bodice. Martha accompanied her to the town hall, where a crowd had already gathered, news of the special hearing having drawn curious onlookers from throughout Cottonwood Springs. Inside, the large meeting room had been arranged court-style, with a raised desk for the judge, tables for prosecution and defense, and rows of chairs for spectators. Isaac stood at one table, reviewing documents with intense concentration. At the other table sat a thin, elegant man Bella didn't recognize, presumably Blackwood's lawyer. Isaac looked up as they entered, his eyes finding Bella immediately. For a moment, his professional demeanor slipped, revealing something warmer, more personal before he composed himself and approached them. Thank you for coming, he said formally, though his eyes conveyed deeper meaning. I've reserved seats for you in the first row. The judge should arrive momentarily. As if on cue, the door at the back of the hall opened, and a distinguished older man in judicial robes entered, followed by a clerk carrying a stack of documents. Everyone rose as Judge Wilson took his place at the bench. Be seated, he commanded in a resonant voice. This court is now in session. We are here to address the charges against Jeremiah Blackwood. The proceedings began with formal introductions. Isaac presented the charges: attempted kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, and threatening an officer of the law. Blackwood's lawyer, a Mr. Harrison from Denver, responded with a plea of not guilty on all counts. Then Blackwood himself was brought in, looking remarkably composed despite his night in jail. He nodded respectfully to the judge and took his seat beside his lawyer with the air of a man attending a business meeting rather than his own criminal hearing. Judge Wilson adjusted his spectacles. Sheriff Oakley, present your evidence. For the next hour, Isaac methodically laid out the case against Blackwood. He presented his own account of the confrontation at the Calloway ranch, supplemented by statements from townspeople who had seen Blackwood and his men heading in that direction. He explained the background: Bella's near sale at auction, Blackwood's public threats, and the ongoing intimidation. Finally, it was Bella's turn to testify. As she took the oath and settled into the witness chair, she felt a momentary wave of fear at Blackwood's cold stare. Then her eyes met Isaac's, finding strength in his steady gaze, and her resolve returned. Clearly and confidently, she recounted the events at the ranch, Blackwood's ambush, his threats, his admission that he believed her father had stolen from him, and his stated intention to take her across the border to settle the debt. He said he would sell me to certain establishments, Bella stated, her voice unwavering despite the gasps from the audience. When I refused, he attempted to force me at gunpoint. If Sheriff Oakley hadn't returned when he did, I would likely be in Mexico by now, Mr. Harrison rose for cross-examination, his manner smooth and patronizing. Miss Calloway, isn't it true that your father owed Mr. Blackwood a considerable sum of money from gambling debts? My father had gambling debts, Bella acknowledged, but whatever he owed died with him. I am not legally responsible for those debts, nor can I be sold to satisfy them. Indeed, Harrison agreed with an oily smile, but isn't it possible you misunderstood Mr. Blackwood's intentions? Perhaps he merely wished to discuss potential employment to help settle your father's obligations. Bella's eyes narrowed. He held a gun to me and stated explicitly that he intended to sell me across the border. I didn't misunderstand anything. Harrison opened his mouth to continue, but Judge Wilson interrupted. I believe Miss Calloway has been quite clear, Counselor. Move on. The questioning continued, with Harrison attempting to paint Blackwood as a concerned businessman merely seeking to recover legitimate debts. But Bella remained steadfast, refusing to be confused or intimidated. When she was finally dismissed, Bella returned to her seat beside Martha, who squeezed her hand supportively. Well done, she whispered. Next came Blackwood's testimony. He presented himself as a victim, a successful businessman being persecuted by an outsider sheriff with a personal vendetta. He claimed he had gone to the Calloway ranch merely to discuss business matters with Bella, bringing men for protection in the isolated location. According to Blackwood, it was Isaac who had escalated the situation by drawing his weapon without provocation. Miss Calloway misinterpreted my words, Blackwood insisted smoothly. I never threatened to sell her. I merely suggested she might find employment at one of my establishments to work off her father's debt honorably. As Blackwood spun his tale, Bella noticed a commotion at the back of the hall. A man had entered and was speaking urgently to one of Isaac's deputies. The deputy hurried forward, passing a note to Isaac, whose expression changed as he read it. When Blackwood finished his testimony, Isaac rose. Your Honor, I request a brief recess. New evidence pertinent to this case has just arrived. Judge Wilson frowned. This is highly irregular, Sheriff. I understand, Your Honor, but this evidence directly contradicts statements made by the defendant and may reveal a more serious crime. After a moment's consideration, Judge Wilson nodded. Very well, this court will recess for 15 minutes. As the judge departed, the hall erupted in murmurs of speculation. Isaac approached Bella and Martha, his expression tightly controlled. What is it? Bella asked anxiously. What's happened? The territorial marshal arrived with the doctor who examined your father, Isaac explained quietly. They've exhumed his body and conducted a new examination. Bella, he hesitated, his voice softening. They found traces of arsenic. Your father was poisoned. Bella felt the blood drain from her face. Martha gasped beside her, gripping Bella's arm to steady her. We suspected foul play, Isaac continued, but now we have proof. And we have a witness, a man who worked for Blackwood, who's willing to testify that Blackwood ordered your father's poisoning after discovering he was mining silver on his property. Bella struggled to process this information. Father was murdered, she whispered, the full reality of it crashing down on her. All this time. I'm sorry, Isaac said gently. I wish there had been another way for you to learn this. Before Bella could respond, the court was called back to order. Judge Wilson returned, looking grave as Isaac presented the new evidence. The medical examiner's report confirming arsenic poisoning, and a sworn statement from William Parker, former employee of Blackwood, testifying that he had witnessed Blackwood discussing James Calloway's removal and later bragging about how easily arsenic could be slipped into a man's whiskey. Blackwood's confident demeanor crumbled as the evidence mounted. His lawyer attempted to object, claiming the new evidence was inadmissible, but Judge Wilson overruled him. Based on this new evidence, the judge declared, I am remanding Jeremiah Blackwood to custody pending a full murder trial. Bail is denied due to the severity of the charges and the demonstrated flight risk. He fixed Blackwood with a stern gaze. The attempted kidnapping charges will be addressed in the same trial. Court is adjourned. As Blackwood was led away, his eyes found Bella's across the room. The cold hatred in his gaze sent a shiver through her, but she held her ground, refusing to look away until he was taken from the hall. The spectators erupted in excited chatter as they filed out. Bella remained seated, overwhelmed by the day's revelations. Martha kept a supportive arm around her shoulders, murmuring comforting words. Isaac approached after the hall had mostly emptied. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Bella nodded slowly. "I think so, it's just a lot to take in." She looked up at him. "All this time I thought his heart gave out, but someone actually murdered him." "I'm sorry," Isaac said again, taking the seat beside her. "I suspected foul play, but I didn't want to say anything until I had proof. I didn't want to add to your pain with speculation." "You were protecting me," Bella realized, "just like Father was." Isaac nodded solemnly. "James asked me to look after you if anything happened to him. I think he knew he was in danger even then." Martha patted Bella's hand. "What happens now, Isaac?" "Blackwood will stand trial for murder and attempted kidnapping," Isaac explained. "With the evidence we have, plus Parker's testimony, conviction is likely. As for the mine..." He turned to Bella. "The deed transferring the northern section to Thomas Wilson appears legitimate. With your father's journal documenting his plan and no evidence of fraud in the transfer itself, you have a strong claim to that land as his heir." Hope bloomed in Bella's chest. "So the mine could be mine." "It should be," Isaac confirmed. "There will be legal hurdles, but I believe we can overcome them." His expression softened. "Your father wanted to secure your future, Bella. I intend to make sure that happens." The conviction in his voice warmed Bella from within, chasing away some of the chill left by the knowledge of her father's murder. She reached out impulsively and squeezed Isaac's hand. "Thank you," she said simply, "for everything." His fingers tightened around hers briefly before he released her hand and stood. "I should check on the prisoner transfer arrangements. Blackwood will be moved to the Denver jail tomorrow to await trial." As he walked away, Martha watched him with a thoughtful expression. "That man cares for you," she observed quietly, "far beyond any promise he made to your father." Bella's cheeks warmed. "He's just doing his duty." Martha chuckled. "My dear, I've known my brother all his life. When Isaac Oakley merely does his duty, he doesn't look at people the way he looks at you." Bella had no response to that, but as they left the town hall, she found herself hoping Martha was right. The following weeks brought dramatic changes to Bella's life. With Blackwood in custody awaiting trial, his influence in Cottonwood Springs rapidly diminished. People who had previously been too afraid to speak openly now shared stories of his intimidation and corruption, painting a picture of a man who had held the town in his grip for years. Meanwhile, Isaac worked tirelessly to establish Bella's claim to the northern section of her father's property. The Thomas Wilson deed proved valid, and with James Calloway's journal providing context for the unusual transfer, the Territorial Land Office recognized Bella as the rightful heir to the property. "It's official," Isaac announced one evening as he joined Bella and Martha for dinner, a now regular occurrence. He handed Bella a document bearing the territorial seal, 50 acres of prime silver-bearing land legally registered to Miss Bella Calloway. Bella accepted the document with trembling hands. "I can hardly believe it," she whispered, tracing her name on the deed. "Father would be so pleased." "The question now," Martha said practically, "is what you'll do with it. Mining requires capital and expertise." "I've been thinking about that," Bella admitted. "Several mining companies have already approached me with offers to buy the claim outright." Isaac frowned. "Be careful with those offers. They're likely far below the true value." "I know," Bella assured him. "I have no intention of selling." She took a deep breath. "Actually, I've been speaking with Mr. Henderson at the bank. He's willing to extend a loan against the property value to fund initial operations. And I've hired Thomas Jenkins, the foreman from the Eagle Mountain mine, to oversee the work." Isaac and Martha stared at her in surprise. "You've been busy," Isaac remarked, admiration evident in his tone. Bella smiled. "I learned from my father that opportunities must be seized when they appear. The Calloway Silver Mine will begin operations next month." "The Calloway Silver Mine," Martha repeated, raising her glass. "I like the sound of that." As they celebrated this new beginning, Bella reflected on how much had changed in just 2 months. From standing on an auction block facing a future of servitude or worse, she had become a property owner and soon-to-be mine operator. The transformation was dizzying, but perhaps the most significant change was in her heart. Living at the boarding house, she had found not just shelter but family in Martha's maternal warmth. And in Isaac she had found something more complex and precious. Their relationship had evolved from rescuer and rescued to partners in uncovering the truth about her father's death and securing her inheritance. Now, catching his gaze across the table as Martha cleared the dishes, Bella wondered if it might evolve yet further. There was a softness in Isaac's eyes when he looked at her lately, a tenderness that made her pulse quicken and her cheeks warm. "I should be going," Isaac said, rising from the table. "Early start tomorrow." "I'll walk you out," Bella offered, ignoring Martha's knowing smile as she followed Isaac to the front porch. The evening was mild, stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, neither quite ready to say goodnight. "You've accomplished so much in such a short time," Isaac finally said, turning to face her. "Your father would be proud." "I couldn't have done it without you," Bella replied honestly. "You believed in me when I had nothing, not even my freedom." Isaac's expression grew serious. "You never had nothing, Bella. You've always had courage, intelligence, and determination. Those qualities can't be bought or sold." The sincerity in his voice touched her deeply. "Still, I owe you a debt I can never repay." "You owe me nothing," he insisted. "What I did first out of duty to an old friend, and then—" He hesitated, seeming to search for the right words. "And then," Bella prompted softly, her heart beating faster. Isaac took a step closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him in the cool evening air. "And then because I couldn't bear to see you hurt," he admitted quietly. "Because somewhere along the way, your welfare became important to me for reasons that had nothing to do with promises or duty." Bella's breath caught in her throat. "Isaac." "I know it's too soon," he continued, his voice rough with emotion. "You've been through so much, and you're just beginning to build your new life. The last thing you need is—" Bella silenced him by placing her fingers gently against his lips. "Don't tell me what I need," she whispered, surprising herself with her boldness. "I think I know my own heart." For a moment they stood frozen in that tableau, her fingers against his lips, his eyes wide with surprise and something deeper, more elemental. Then slowly, he raised his hand to capture hers, turning it to press a kiss against her palm. The simple gesture sent a shiver of warmth through Bella's entire body. Her eyes met his, finding in them the same longing she felt coursing through her veins. "Bella," he murmured, her name a question and a prayer on his lips. She answered by rising on her toes and pressing her lips to his in a kiss that began tentatively but quickly deepened as Isaac's arms encircled her waist, drawing her closer. The world seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them beneath the star-studded sky. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Isaac rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that since the day I cut those ropes from your wrists," he confessed. Bella smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in months. "I think I've wanted you to since that moment you said I was yours by choice, not by price." A shadow crossed his face. "I spoke without thinking then. You don't belong to anyone but yourself, Bella." "I know," she assured him, touched by his concern. "But in that moment you gave me back my dignity, my autonomy. You saw me as a person when everyone else saw property." She placed her hand against his cheek. "How could I not fall in love with a man like that?" The words slipped out before she could consider them, but once spoken, she knew they were true. Somehow, amidst all the chaos and pain of the past months, she had fallen in love with this quiet, honorable man who had risked everything to help her. Isaac's eyes widened at her declaration. For a moment, he seemed at a loss for words, then a smile spread across his face, transforming his usually serious features. "I love you too, Bella Calloway," he said, the words simple but spoken with such conviction that they brought tears to her eyes. "More than I thought possible." He kissed her again, this time with a certainty and passion that left her breathless. When they separated, Bella knew her life had changed yet again, this time in the most wonderful way possible. "I should go," Isaac said reluctantly, though he made no move to release her. "People will talk." Bella laughed softly. "People are already talking. Martha's probably watching us from the window right now." As if on cue, the porch light flickered, making them both chuckle and step apart. "Subtle as always, my sister," Isaac remarked dryly. "She cares about you," Bella said. "About both of us." Isaac nodded, taking Bella's hand in his. "I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be here," she promised. As he walked away, Bella remained on the porch, watching until he disappeared into the darkness. Her heart felt full to bursting with possibilities she had never dared imagine just weeks ago. When she finally went inside, Martha was in the kitchen, pretending to be very interested in wiping down the already spotless counter. "Not a word," Bella warned. Though she couldn't suppress her smile, Martha raised her hands innocently. "I didn't say anything." Then her expression softened. "But I'm happy for you both, dear, so very happy." Bella impulsively hugged the older woman. "Thank you, Martha, for everything." "That's what family does," Martha replied simply, returning the embrace. "And like it or not, you're family now." Family, the word warmed Bella's heart. She had lost so much: her father, her home, her place in the world. But somehow she had found something precious in the aftermath. A new purpose, a new home, and people who cared for her not out of obligation but out of love. As she prepared for bed that night, Bella stood by the window, gazing out at the stars that sparkled over Cottonwood Springs. For the first time since her father's death, she felt truly hopeful about the future, a future that now included a silver mine, a boarding house that felt like home, and a sheriff with storm-gray eyes who had declared her his by choice, not by price. And in that choice, they had both found freedom. 3 months later, on a crisp autumn day, the Calloway silver mine officially opened for operation. Bella stood proudly at the entrance, dressed in a new burgundy dress that complemented her golden hair, now styled in a practical but elegant knot at the nape of her neck. Beside her, Isaac watched with undisguised pride as she addressed the gathered crowd of miners, investors, and curious townspeople. "My father dreamed of securing our future through this silver," Bella told them, her voice strong and clear in the mountain air. "Though he didn't live to see this day, I believe he's watching now, and I hope he's proud of what we've accomplished." The small ceremony concluded with Bella cutting a ribbon strung across the mine entrance. Cheers erupted as the first crew of miners entered the shaft, officially beginning operations that preliminary work suggested would yield substantial returns. "You've done it," Isaac murmured as the crowd dispersed to enjoy the refreshments Martha had organized. "In just a few months, you've turned tragedy into triumph." Bella smiled up at him, squeezing his hand. "We've done it," she corrected. "I couldn't have managed any of this without you." Their relationship had deepened steadily over the intervening months. Isaac had become a constant presence in her life, supporting her business decisions, protecting her interests, and steadily courting her with a respectful determination that both honored her independence and made it clear he wanted her by his side permanently. The town had adjusted to seeing them together, initial gossip giving way to acceptance and even approval. The story of how they met, of Isaac's dramatic interruption of the auction, had become something of a local legend, embellished with each retelling until it sounded more like a dime novel than reality. As the celebration continued around them, Isaac drew Bella slightly away from the crowd, toward a quiet spot overlooking the valley. The view was spectacular, rolling hills giving way to distant mountains, the town of Cottonwood Springs nestled in between. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Bella remarked, breathing in the clear mountain air. "Very," Isaac agreed, though his eyes were fixed on her rather than the landscape. "Bella, there's something I've been wanting to ask you." The seriousness in his tone made her turn to face him fully. "What is it?" To her surprise, Isaac reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Her heart began to race as he opened it to reveal a delicate gold ring set with a small but perfect diamond. "I had this made in Denver," he explained, his voice uncharacteristically nervous. "The gold is from your mine, the first small batch we sent for processing." Bella's eyes filled with tears as she looked from the ring to the man holding it. "Isaac." He took her hand in his eyes never leaving hers. "I know it's only been a few months since we met, but I feel like I've known you forever. You're the bravest, strongest woman I've ever known, and I fall more in love with you every day." He dropped to one knee, still holding her hand. "Bella Calloway, I don't want to possess you. You're not a prize to be won or bought. But I want to stand beside you, to build a life with you, to face whatever comes together." He took a deep breath. "Will you marry me?" Tears spilled freely down Bella's cheeks now, but they were tears of joy. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. Yes, Isaac Oakley, I will marry you. Isaac's face broke into a radiant smile as he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, the gold and diamond catching the sunlight as he rose to his feet and pulled her into his arms. Their kiss was witnessed only by the mountains, and sky a promise sealed in the same wild landscape where they had found each other against all odds. When they returned to the celebration, Martha took one look at Bella's glowing face and the ring on her finger and let out a cry of delight that drew everyone's attention. Soon they were surrounded by well-wishers, the mine opening becoming a dual celebration. When's the wedding? Martha demanded, already mentally planning the details. Isaac and Bella exchanged glances. We were thinking next month, Isaac said. Small ceremony, just close friends. Next month, Martha exclaimed. There's so much to do. The dress, the cake, the Martha, Isaac interrupted gently. We want something simple. No fuss. Nonsense, his sister declared. The sheriff and the mine owner getting married is the biggest event this town has seen in years. You'll have a proper wedding if I have to arrange it myself. Bella laughed at Isaac's resigned expression. I think we've been overruled, she told him. Story of my life with Martha, he sighed, though his eyes twinkled with amusement. But if it makes you happy. You make me happy, Bella replied softly. The rest is just details. As predicted, news of their engagement spread rapidly through Cottonwood Springs. Letters of congratulation arrived from as far as Denver, including one from the territorial governor who had taken a personal interest in the Blackwood case. Speaking of Blackwood, his trial had concluded the previous month with a conviction for the murder of James Calloway and the attempted kidnapping of Bella. The judge had sentenced him to hang, but the governor had commuted the sentence to life imprisonment in the territorial penitentiary, a fate many considered worse than a quick death. With Blackwood's power structure dismantled, Cottonwood Springs had begun to change. Corrupt officials were voted out or resigned, legitimate businesses flourished, and a new sense of community developed. Isaac's role in bringing down Blackwood had cemented his position as sheriff, earning him the respect and trust of townspeople who had initially viewed him as an outsider. The weeks leading up to the wedding passed in a whirlwind of preparations. Despite Bella and Isaac's wishes for simplicity, Martha's vision expanded until it seemed half the county would be in attendance. The ceremony would take place at the new church, with a reception to follow in the town square. It's gotten rather out of hand, hasn't it? Bella remarked to Isaac one evening as they sat on the boarding house porch, reviewing Martha's latest list of essential wedding elements. Completely, Isaac agreed, putting his arm around her shoulders. But seeing how happy it makes Martha and how the town has embraced the celebration, it's hard to object too strongly. Bella leaned against him, content despite the mounting wedding chaos. I just want to be your wife, the rest is window dressing. Isaac pressed a kiss to her temple. 1 month from today you will be Mrs. Bella Oakley. I like the sound of that, she murmured, tilting her face up for a proper kiss. The day before the wedding, Bella visited her father's grave. The simple headstone had been replaced with a more elaborate marble marker, paid for with the first profits from the mine. She laid fresh flowers against the stone and sat beside it, running her fingers over the engraved name. I wish you could be here tomorrow, Father, she said softly. To walk me down the aisle to see what's become of your discovery. She smiled through gathering tears. I think you would like Isaac. He's a good man, honorable, kind, stronger than he knows. He makes me feel safe but not confined, protected but not possessed. A gentle breeze stirred the flowers, carrying the scent of pine and distant snow from the mountains. I understand now why you kept secrets, Bella continued. You were trying to protect me to secure my future. I wish you could see that it worked, though not in the way you planned. She touched the cold stone. I miss you every day, but I'm happy, Father, truly happy. As she rose to leave, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. Her father was gone, but his love lived on in the legacy he had left her, not just the silver mine, but the strength and determination he had instilled in her from childhood. The wedding day dawned clear and bright, the October sky a perfect blue. The church was decorated with autumn flowers and greenery, pews filled with friends and townspeople eager to witness the union of their sheriff and the woman whose story had captured their hearts. In a small room at the back of the church, Martha fussed over Bella's appearance, adjusting the delicate veil that crowned her upswept hair. "You look absolutely beautiful," Martha declared, stepping back to admire her handiwork. "Like something from a fairy tale." Bella smoothed the ivory satin of her gown, still hardly believing this day had arrived. "Thank you for everything, Martha. For taking me in when I had nowhere to go, for becoming the sister I never had." Martha's eyes misted. "Now don't make me cry and ruin my face before the ceremony," she scolded gently. "Besides, it's I who should thank you. You've brought such joy into our lives, especially Isaac's." She squeezed Bella's hands. "I've never seen my brother so happy." A knock at the door announced it was time. With no father to walk her down the aisle, Bella had asked Thomas Jenkins, her mine foreman and a man who had become a trusted friend, to do the honors. He waited now, looking uncomfortable but proud in his Sunday best. "Ready, Miss Calloway?" he asked, offering his arm. "For the last time we'll call you that." Bella took a deep breath and nodded. "Ready." The church fell silent as the doors opened. Bella paused at the threshold, her eyes immediately finding Isaac waiting for her at the altar. He stood tall and handsome in a new black suit, his eyes widening at the sight of her. The love and admiration in his gaze gave her the courage to begin the walk that would change her life forever. As she moved down the aisle, Bella was struck by how far she had come from that terrible day at the auction barn. From a woman being sold to the highest bidder to a bride freely choosing her husband, a man who had seen her worth beyond any price tag. When she reached the altar, Isaac took her hand, his fingers warm and steady around hers. "You're breathtaking," he whispered. The minister smiled at them both. "Dearly beloved," he began, his voice filling the church, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Isaac Oakley and Bella Calloway in holy matrimony." The ceremony was simple but profound, the traditional vows taking on new meaning for a couple whose relationship had begun with a declaration of choice over price. When Isaac slipped the gold band onto her finger to join her engagement ring, his hands trembled slightly, the only outward sign of the depth of emotion he felt. "By the power vested in me," the minister concluded, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." He smiled at Isaac. "You may kiss your bride." Isaac cradled Bella's face in his hands with infinite tenderness before lowering his lips to hers in a kiss that sealed their vows and promised a lifetime of love. The church erupted in applause and cheers as they turned to face their friends as husband and wife. The reception in the town square lasted well into the evening, with music, dancing, and more food than the entire county could consume. As dusk fell, lanterns were lit, casting a golden glow over the festivities. During a quiet moment, Isaac led Bella away from the celebration to a secluded corner of the square. From his pocket, he produced a small package wrapped in silver paper. "A wedding gift," he explained, placing it in her hands, "something to mark our beginning." Bella unwrapped it carefully to find a delicate silver locket. When she opened it, she found a tiny portrait of her father on one side, a younger version than she remembered, but unmistakably James Calloway. "How did you?" she began, astonished. "It was among your father's things that Reed had taken," Isaac explained. "I found it when we were cataloging evidence and kept it aside for today." He touched the empty side of the locket. "I thought perhaps someday the other side might hold a portrait of our family, the family we'll build together." Tears welled in Bella's eyes at the thoughtfulness of the gift. "It's perfect," she whispered, closing the locket and placing it around her neck to rest beside her mother's gold one. "Thank you," Isaac drew her close, resting his forehead against hers. "Thank you for choosing me, Bella Oakley." "Always," she promised, sealing the vow with a kiss. Later that night, as they slipped away from the still lively celebration toward the small house they had purchased near the center of town, Bella reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought her to this moment. From the depths of despair on that auction platform to the heights of joy in her husband's arms, she had experienced the full spectrum of human emotion in just a few short months. But through it all, one constant had emerged: the unwavering support and love of the man who had declared her mine by choice, not by price, and then proved it every day since with his actions. As Isaac swept her into his arms to carry her across the threshold of their new home, Bella knew with absolute certainty that some things were indeed beyond price, and the love they shared was the most valuable treasure of all. 5 years later, the Calloway silver mine had transformed Cottonwood Springs. What had once been a struggling frontier town was now a thriving community with proper streets, a school, and even a small hospital funded largely by the mine's profits. Bella Oakley stood on the porch of the handsome two-story house she shared with Isaac, watching their 4-year-old daughter Elizabeth chase butterflies in the front garden. Beside her, cradled in her arms, their 6-month-old son James slept peacefully, untroubled by his sister's excited shrieks. "Careful, Lizzie," Bella called as the girl ventured near the flower beds. "Remember what happened to Daddy's roses last time?" Elizabeth grinned impishly, her gray eyes so like her father's sparkling with mischief. "I'll be careful, Mama, promise," Bella smiled, adjusting baby James in her arms. The years had been kind to the Oakleys. Isaac still served as sheriff, though he now had 3 deputies to help manage the growing town. Bella oversaw the mine operations with Thomas Jenkins' continued assistance, proving herself a shrewd businesswoman despite initial skepticism from some of the male investors. Together, they had built a life filled with love, purpose, and community. Martha lived nearby, doting on her niece and nephew and still running the boarding house, though she now employed 2 girls to help with the heavier work. The sound of approaching hoofbeats drew Bella's attention to the road. Isaac rode toward the house, his familiar figure a welcome sight at the end of a long day. Elizabeth spotted him too, abandoning her butterfly chase to run to the gate. Daddy's home," she called, bouncing with excitement. Isaac dismounted, scooping his daughter into his arms. "There's my little butterfly," he said, spinning her around to her delighted giggles. He carried her to the porch, leaning in to kiss Bella and peek at his sleeping son. "And how are my wife and young man today?" "We're well," Bella replied, leaning into his solid warmth. "James has been sleeping better, only woke twice last night." "Progress," Isaac remarked with a tired smile. He set Elizabeth down. "Go wash up for dinner, Lizzie. I need to talk to Mama for a minute." As the child scampered inside, Bella studied her husband's face. "What is it? You look troubled." Isaac sighed, taking a seat on the porch swing and drawing Bella down beside him. "Got a telegram from the territorial prison today. Blackwood died last night." Bella absorbed this news silently. The man who had nearly destroyed her life, who had murdered her father, was gone. She had expected to feel satisfaction, perhaps even joy at the news. Instead, she felt only a quiet relief that a dark chapter was truly closed. "How?" she finally asked. "Pneumonia, according to the warden." Isaac ran a hand through his hair, now sporting threads of silver at the temples. 5 years in prison seems both too long and not long enough for what he did. Bella shifted baby James to her shoulder, rubbing his back gently. "Justice works in its own time, I suppose." She looked out at the garden, at the life they had built. "He's gone, but we're still here, still thriving." "That's its own kind of justice." Isaac's arm tightened around her shoulders. "You're right, as usual." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "How did I get so lucky to find such a wise woman?" "As I recall," Bella said with a small smile, "you found me on an auction block about to be sold to the highest bidder." Isaac winced. "Not my favorite memory." "But an important one," Bella countered. "It was the moment everything changed when you declared me yours by choice, not by price." She leaned against him, baby James snuggled between them. "Those words gave me back my dignity when I thought all was lost." "I meant every word," Isaac said softly. "Then and now." Their moment of reflection was interrupted by Elizabeth's return, face freshly scrubbed and hands still damp. "Can we eat now? I'm starving," Bella laughed, rising from the swing. "Yes, dinner's ready. Let's go in." As they entered their home, a home filled with laughter, love, and the comfortable chaos of family life, Bella felt a profound sense of gratitude. The path that had brought her here had been painful at times, fraught with danger and loss. But it had also been lined with unexpected blessings. A silver mine that secured her independence, friends who became family, children who brought immeasurable joy, and a husband whose love had never wavered. In the warm kitchen, as Isaac carved the roast and Elizabeth chattered about her day's adventures, Bella looked around at her family and thought of her father. He would have loved this, his grandchildren, the thriving mine, the good man she had married. Though he couldn't be there to see it, she knew he would be proud of the life she had built from the legacy he left her. Later that night, with the children asleep and the house quiet, Bella and Isaac sat on the porch swing, enjoying the cool evening air and each other's company. His arm rested comfortably around her shoulders, her head nestled against his chest, their hands intertwined as they had been since that fateful day at the auction barn. "I love you, Bella Oakley," Isaac murmured into her hair. "More today than yesterday and not as much as tomorrow." Bella smiled, the familiar words warming her heart as they always did. "And I love you, Isaac Oakley, by choice every single day." In the distance, the lights of Cottonwood Springs twinkled like earthbound stars, a testament to the town's growth and prosperity. Above, the vast Colorado sky spread out in an endless tapestry of real stars, witnesses to the extraordinary journey of a woman who had found her true worth not in silver or gold, but in the love freely given and received. And in that love, Bella had discovered the most precious truth of all, that the richest life is one built on choices made from the heart, guided by courage, and sustained by unwavering commitment to those we hold dear. For Isaac and Bella Oakley, that truth would light their way forward, through whatever joys and challenges the future might hold, secure in the knowledge that what they had found together was truly beyond price.